maybe you could talk about how, what did you do? How did you do it? What happened when companies showed up on your door?
Well, thanks very much, Adam. It's great to be here. So you see, I brought my notes. I got this in Poland. I brought my notes just to make it look like I had prepared in great detail. But I wanted to get a feeling for the crowd, and it's interesting that you're here, but other people aren't. And that, to me, speaks to the fact that the tech world and the government aren't as closely linked as they ought to be. And that's in spite of the fact that a big part of what people in the government, I was political in this big department, didn't pay. This is Techweek. Mike's supposed to be here. I'll keep talking, we'll see what happens. A big part of what we do in foreign policy, and the foreign policy walk, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. So I was most recently ambassador to Poland. I've now left the government. I have a private consulting business, and I work for the former Chief of Staff to President Clinton, Mac McClarty. Before that, I worked on candidate Obama's campaign, and I ran Hillary Clinton's foreign policy campaign before that. Made the transition, lived to tell the tale, still alive. And I worked in and out of government in U.S. think tanks, and then I was a deputy head of the policy planning office under Matt. So I've got kind of global background, most recently in Poland. You pay, those of you who are U.S. citizens, pay our salaries. Our job is to do stuff that advances interests of the people who live in the United States and pay our salaries. And a big part of that, and a big part of foreign policy, is to help American business succeed wherever it wants to be successful. And this is important because, as President Obama is always saying, you can't be strong abroad if you're not strong at home. And prosperity is the key to our country's health and security. It's really important. And a big part of any ambassador's job overseas is meeting with American businesses, meeting with American firms, and helping them unlock the doors to different opportunities wherever they are. And if you're thinking about doing work overseas through the Commerce Department, through embassies in the particular places you're working, it's really worth it for you to take advantage of the opportunity. Ambassadors, particularly political ambassadors like myself, love meeting business people. Most business people are on the cutting edge. They have a ground truth that other people don't. And foreign policy is it's interesting. I mean, it's my life's work. But you don't often get wins. But in the area of business, you can get wins. You can cut deals. Your work is much more tangible. And so ambassadors really like it. And they're smart. We're all political creatures, and we know who's signing the paycheck, which is you. So we are, it's our job to be as helpful as we can. Since I just came from Warsaw as ambassador, and since I am in Chicago, I should say something about how impressed I've been at the Polish startups that are featured here. They're terrific. And how much American tech firms have focused on Poland. Google has 3 offices in Poland, in Warsaw, in Krakow, and Wrocław, and I visited all of them. GE is very active in Poland, IBM is active in Poland, and it's a variety of things. Some of it is outsourcing, but also a lot of it is R&D and moving up the value chain. So it's really quite an interesting place to do business. And Poland is, despite the economic recession in Europe, which keeps on coming, Poland's the only country that's grown every year since 2008. So between 2008 and now, Poland's GDP has increased by over 15%, and the GDP in the EU across the board, including Poland, has contracted during the same time by 0.3%. So Poland is, as Polish government officials like to say, the green island in a sea of red. So it's an interesting place for which to do business.
I think what's important maybe we should talk about for folks here is, there's 30,000 computer engineers graduating every year in Poland right now. And 90% of them get placed right away to a company. That's a huge business. And I think Poland's not thinking about how they can get more folks, like the people here, doing business there. So there's jobs all over the place. There's opportunities all over the place. Do you see that all over there?
So what I would say is, so two trends. One was American businesses wanting to situate in Poland and take advantage of incentives and a very highly educated workforce and a highly motivated workforce. And I saw a lot of it in the tech sector, but also in real estate and manufacturing and services. And then what's beginning to happen, and you can see it in Techweek, is increasingly, and Adam has been driving this with the Commerce Department, investment from Poland into the United States. And this is a very big big country. It's very, very daunting for Europeans to come to the States and figure out where to start, how to plug in, who to connect. And they need help. And so those of you who are looking to do matchmaking, there's definitely a role for you to help inward investment into the United States, whether it's from Warsaw or anywhere else.
Let me get shameless plug. So in the government, we have this thing called Select USA. It's a program, very important. The president launched it 2 years ago. And the concept is to help foreign companies invest here. And so October 31st and November 1st in Washington, D.C., we'll have our first ever summit. It's called the Select USA Summit. And it'll be in Washington, D.C. We'll have economic development organizations from each of the 50 states there to help facilitate doing business in America. So I think it's really, if you can't get the word out, especially for our friends in the Polish companies, are they here? Are they they're just, okay, so those guys, and I think they're friends, and any friends you have, I think you should talk about coming to America and setting up shop. Obviously, #1 place to do business in the world as of 2 days ago, the report that came out. So that's exciting.
Sure, absolutely.
Thoughts? We got the close lunch.
I think we've got one over there.
Sure. So, okay, we have the government facilitating international business. We have a few companies from Poland here today. What advice can you give a startup or early stage company that's looking to go global or get up to the U.S. market? How do they interact with you, Adam, or some of the experience that you've had, ambassador, for an early stage company that's trying to get on the U.S. market?
Good question. I think an early stage company should think really intelligently about where to go. I think the way to do that is not just jump into Russia, Brazil, India, or China, because they're the sexy countries we talk about all the time. Those are sometimes very daunting markets. I think the best thing you can do really is call up the local U.S. Export Assistance Center and sit down with an expert who can tell you precisely where your business model would fit best. If you're an IT health sector, for instance, you might want to go to a trade mission to Turkey, which will be happening soon, later this year. If you want to, if you're a renewable energy tech company, you might want to think about a market where that plays the best. Europe might be the right rules because of the European rules to reduce carbon emissions by 2020. There's people there who might want to buy your product. By the way, Canada and Mexico are just around the corner, and they're just, they're open for business as well, and we have free trade agreements with them. So free trade agreements with countries would be an important place to consider going. But I think it's really incumbent to go to these U.S. Export Assistance Centers are free. You pay taxes. That's how you get that advice. It's free. Just walk in the door and talk to an expert. And especially for startups that don't have a lot of money. I mean, that is like the thing you need to do if you haven't done so already. If you want to think about going to the market.
And I understood the expression the other way, which was if you're from outside and you're looking to get into the United States, which maybe is not how you intended it. But one thing I would say is Poles, for example, were always really fascinating. There are understanding fascinating by Silicon Valley. Like, who wouldn't be? But what actually your former boss, the acting Commerce Secretary, Rebecca Blank, said when she was in Warsaw at my house last July, said, forget about Silicon Valley. Think about Dayton, Ohio. And it's interesting because a lot of American cities have remade themselves. They were old economy cities, and they have found new ways to use the brain power resources that they have and successfully transition to. Silicon Valley is obviously great, but it's also quite unique, a whole unique set of circumstances. And so if you're looking for places to start, or places of inspiration, sure, Silicon Valley is great, but there are lots of American cities, Chicago being one of them, which are really investing heavily in their